The alien ship floated in deep space, far from any star. Inside, cold metal walls hummed quietly. Soldiers of the Zarketh Empire moved with discipline, but they kept glancing toward the lower prison deck. Something about that place felt wrong. In Cell 9B, a single human sat with his back against the wall. He didn't speak. He didn't shout. He didn't beg. He just sat there staring at the floor. 3 days had passed since they captured him. Not a single word had come from his mouth. Captain Vorak, leader of the alien vessel, stood outside the human cell with his top officers. He watched the human through the energy barrier. The man had short black hair, cuts on his face, and blood on his shirt. Still, he showed no fear, not even curiosity. "Is he broken?" one officer asked. "Maybe he's just stupid," another said, laughing. But Captain Vorak didn't laugh. He didn't even blink. "No," he said. "He's listening." The others fell silent. They had captured the human during a border raid. The Empire wanted to test Earth's strength, so they attacked a small outpost. They expected resistance. Instead, they found silence. The base was empty. Only one man stayed behind, and he let himself be taken. Vorak had questioned him. He had threatened him. He had promised pain. The man said nothing, just looked straight ahead, like he didn't. Later that night, strange things began happening. First, the lights flickered near Cell 9B. Engineers found nothing wrong. Then one of the guards posted near the cell had a nightmare. He saw fire and shadows and heard no sound. When he woke up, his hands were shaking. Another guard tried to play music near the human, hoping to provoke him. The music player exploded. No power surge, no heat, just silence, and then destruction. On the third day, a low-ranking technician entered the cell to run a brain scan. He placed the device on the human's head and pressed start. The entire ship went dark. Every screen turned off. Engines paused for 2 full seconds, then everything came back online. The technician fell to the floor, his eyes wide with terror. "I saw something," he whispered. Something was looking back. The human still hadn't moved, still hadn't spoken. Vorak grew uneasy. He wasn't a superstitious creature. He believed in power, force, logic. But this silence, this calmness, was not natural. It was dangerous. "He's not a scout," Vorak muttered to himself. "He's a message." That night, the crew held a meeting. Some wanted to kill the human and throw the body into space. Others wanted to run more tests. Vorak remained silent for a long time before speaking. "If this man is a message," he said, "what happens when we ignore it?" No one answered. Back in Cell 9B, the human blinked slowly. He could hear every footstep above him. He could feel the fear growing. He had not eaten in 2 days, but his eyes were sharp, focused. He didn't need to speak. His silence was louder than any scream. Suddenly, a young alien soldier walked into the hallway. New to the crew, curious. He stopped in front of the cell and stared at the prisoner. "You think you're clever?" the soldier asked. "You think silence will save you?" The human looked at him for the first time, just one glance. The soldier felt his body freeze. His legs refused to move. His breath caught in his throat. There was nothing in the human's eyes, and that was what scared him the most. He backed away slowly, never turning his back. Later, in the command room, Vorak reviewed the security footage. The human had only looked up once, but in that moment the air seemed to change. The captain turned to his second-in-command. "Send a message to the fleet. Tell them to be ready." "For what, sir?" Vorak's voice was low. "For silence." That night, as the ship floated alone in space, Captain Vorak stood by the viewing window. He watched the stars. He had been in many battles, fought many enemies. But this was different. The enemy hadn't spoken, hadn't fought, hadn't even moved. And still the whole ship felt like it was under attack. Below, in the dark cell, the human smiled for the first time. Not because he was free, but because everything was going according to plan. The silence was over. It was nearly time. A cold wind moved through the alien ship, though there were no open doors. The air systems were fine, but still, it felt cold. The kind of cold that made your skin crawl, the kind that made even the bravest soldiers walk. A little faster down the halls. Captain Vorak didn't sleep that night. He sat in his chair, watching the screen that showed Cell 9B. The human was still there, still quiet, still watching, not sleeping, not blinking for long, just waiting. The technician who had fainted earlier now sat in the medical room. His skin was pale. His hands wouldn't stop shaking. The doctors told Vorak his brain was fine, but his mind, something was wrong. "I saw fire," the technician whispered. But no sound, no screams, just silence. And then, it looked at me. Vorak asked what it was. The technician didn't answer. He only stared at the wall. Later that day, the power went out in the lower deck for 3 seconds, just long enough to open a few doors. Nothing escaped. Nothing came in. But it left the crew nervous. The engineers still couldn't explain it. Then came the message. A Zarketh scout ship sent out a distress call. They had found a small Earth craft drifting near a gas moon. No weapons, no life signs, just a message playing on loop. Captain Vorak listened to the recording in his command room. The voice was calm, human, male. "We're already here." Then silence. The scout ship went dark minutes later. No explosion, no sign of battle. Just gone. Vorak stood frozen. The room around him was quiet. His officers looked at him, waiting. "Could it be a trick?" one asked. Vorak didn't answer right away. He kept looking at the screen. The human in Cell 9B still hadn't moved. "Get me the data from Earth's war records," he finally said. His officers blinked. "Why, sir?" Vorak's eyes were hard. "Because I don't think we're fighting their army. I think we're fighting something else." The data came in. Vorak read it slowly. Earth had lost many battles in its early years, loud wars with explosions and fire. But then, something changed. Around the time Earth joined the galactic community, it stopped using traditional armies in deep space. They trained new units, units that didn't use radio signals, units that left no heat trail, units that never spoke. They called them ghost teams, trained in silence, masters of stealth, experts in fear. They were used only when diplomacy failed, when words no longer worked, when Earth wanted to end a threat without starting a full war. And now, one of them was sitting in Cell 9B. Vorak slowly turned toward the screen. "You let us catch you," he said softly, even though the human couldn't hear him. Inside the cell, the human blinked once, as if answering. That evening, another officer tried to question the human. He brought a translator drone and a mind reader chip. The human ignored it all. Then, after exactly 4 minutes, he looked up and spoke. Just one word. "Soon." The officer dropped the tablet in his hands. He backed away from the cell. "Soon what?" he whispered. The human didn't answer. He was already silent again. The message spread across the ship like fire. The human spoke. He said, "Soon." That was all, but it was enough. Soldiers began to carry weapons into the bathrooms. Others refused to sleep. Some said they heard whispers through the vents at night. The science team dismissed it as paranoia. Vorak wasn't so sure. Another message came that night, this time from a mining colony on the edge of Empire space. The signal was broken, full of static, but one sentence came through clearly. "They're here. We can't see them, but they're here." Then the signal died. The Empire's high command still didn't panic. They believed it was a technical issue, or pirates, or maybe even a rogue faction. But Vorak knew better. He stood at the bridge watching the stars again. His second in command, Rylak walked up beside him. Sir, what do we do if Earth really has sent them? Vorak didn't speak at first, then he said, Then we made a mistake by taking him. Rylak frowned. He's just one man. No, Vorak said quietly. He's the start. Below in the prison deck, the human sat still. But something in the air had changed. He could feel it. The whispers had begun. The fear was spreading. Earth's message was working. They didn't need to fire the first shot. The enemy would destroy itself from the inside. And all they needed was silence. A thick silence filled the halls of the Empire ship. No one talked unless they had to. The soldiers, once proud and loud, now walked in pairs. Some refused to go near Cell 9B at all. Captain Vorak sat in the command center, watching a blinking red light on the screen. Another message had come in. This one was from a small listening post near the edge of the Andar belt. He played the recording. The voice was soft, scared. This is Station Theta 9. We picked up a strange signal. No voice, just static. But it's moving, following us. We think... The voice cut off. Nothing else came. Vorak leaned back in his chair. That was the third listening post lost in 2 days. No signs of battle, no explosions, just silence, and then nothing. The Empire's War Council believed it was a communication glitch, but Vorak didn't believe that anymore. He looked again at the human in Cell 9B. Still there, still quiet, still watching. Have you noticed? Vorak asked his officers. It's not Earth that's sending ships, it's the silence, the fear, that's what's killing us. His second-in-command, Rylak, nodded slowly. Sir, what if that was the plan all along? Vorak didn't answer. He remembered something from Earth's old war files. A special unit trained to spread fear before the first strike. Their goal wasn't to destroy cities. It was to break the mind, break the enemy from the inside, to use silence as a weapon. And it was working. Later that day, a science officer tried to test the human again, this time from outside the cell. She used long-range brainwave scanners. The readings made no sense. The human's mind showed activity in every area, calm but alert. Like he was awake in a dream. She ran the scan again. Same result. Then, for just a second, her screen blinked. One word appeared. Listen. She screamed and dropped the scanner. There was no code in the machine to show messages. No way for the human to control it, and yet there it was. One word. Clear. Listen. The science team shut down the project. No one wanted to get close anymore. That evening, another Empire ship went missing. A patrol cruiser near the gas planet Varnus 3. It was tracking a small object that matched Earth design. The crew sent one final message. We found it. No weapons, no crew, just a signal repeating, we're already here. Then silence. The ship vanished. No wreckage. No distress call. Captain Vorak watched the fleet map. Red lights blinked out, one by one. Each time, no sound, no fight. Just gone. He clenched his fists. The human in Cell 9B had done nothing. But his presence was destroying the Empire faster than any army could. Later that night, Vorak walked alone to the prison deck. No guards followed him. He stood in front of the cell, watching the human. The human looked up. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then Captain Vorak asked, Are you the first or the last? The human tilted his head, then gave a small, slow smile. I'm the signal, he said quietly. His voice was soft, but it hit like a thunderstorm. Vorak stepped back. You're the signal? He repeated. The human nodded once. They're listening. They know what you did, what you planned. You broke the treaty. You thought Earth was alone. You thought silence meant weakness. He stood up. It meant you had one last chance. The lights flickered above them. Far away, an alarm began to ring. Another ship lost. Another station dead. But this time the message was different. A deep human voice sent across all channels. This is the beginning. We are the silence between heartbeats. We are already among you. Every screen on the ship went black. When they returned, a new image appeared. A dark helmet, black, Armor, no face. A symbol from old Earth war legends, no name, no sound, just fear. Captain Vorak's heart sank. "They're here," he whispered. The silent war was no longer coming. It had begun. The Zarketh Empire thought they still had time. Time to understand what was happening. Time to prepare. Time to fight back. They were wrong. At 400 ship time, the Empire's mining colony on Zeral 4 went completely dark. No warning, no explosions, just gone. An entire planet base vanished from the network. When a scout ship was sent to investigate, it found nothing but empty buildings and one strange message written on every wall. "You were warned." The scout ship didn't return. Captain Vorak stared at the new report with a heavy heart. This wasn't just fear anymore. This was destruction. Quiet, fast, and invisible. "They're not using weapons," Relek said, standing beside him. "They're using precision." "No," Vorak answered. "They're using mercy. This is them holding back." The crew was nervous. Even the most hardened warriors now whispered before they spoke. Many avoided looking at screens for too long, afraid they'd see something they couldn't explain. Some even refused to go to sleep. One engineer locked himself inside a storage room and kept repeating, "The silence is not empty. It listens." In the prison deck, the human stood calmly. He hadn't spoken since saying, "I'm the signal," but he didn't need to. He was no longer just a prisoner. He was a countdown. That same night, the Empire's capital ship, the Dominator, sent out a distress beacon. It was the most powerful ship in their fleet, covered in armor, full of weapons, a ship built to destroy planets. The message lasted 5 seconds. "Something is on board. We can't see it. We can't stop it. Then silence. Nothing more. The Dominator disappeared from the fleet's radar. It didn't explode. It wasn't attacked by another ship. It was simply gone. Panic spread across the Empire. Officers stopped trusting each other. Soldiers pointed guns at their own captains. Some ships even turned back toward home space, breaking formation. And Earth hadn't fired a single shot. Captain Vorak called an emergency meeting with his remaining fleet leaders. Their screens buzzed as generals and commanders joined from all corners of Empire space. "We are being taken apart piece by piece," Vorak said. "This isn't war, this is punishment." "Then we should strike Earth now," one commander shouted. "Hit their cities before they come for ours." Vorak's eyes narrowed. "That's exactly what they want us to do. Break the rules again. Show the galaxy who the real monster is. But they've already started a war." "No," Vorak said, lowering his voice. "They gave us a final warning. We didn't listen. And now they're teaching us what silence really means." The others said nothing. Far below in the prison deck, Cell 9B opened without warning. No guards, no alarms. Just the sound of air pressure shifting as the energy shield fell. The human stepped out. He didn't run. Didn't look around. He simply walked down the hall. Every camera watching him blinked off as he passed. Lights flickered. Locks opened without a single command. One soldier saw him and raised his blaster. The human looked at him. Just one calm glance. The soldier dropped his weapon and fell to his knees, trembling. "I don't want to die," he whispered. The human didn't answer. He just kept walking. By the time the alarm finally sounded, it was too late. The human had reached the control room. Vorak and Relek turned just as the door opened. The guards tried to stop him, but their weapons jammed, their bodies froze, like something unseen had taken control. The human stepped forward. "You should have listened," he said softly. Vorak stared at him. "You're just one man. How is this possible?" "I'm not alone," the human replied. "I never was." At that moment, every ship in the Empire's border zone received the same signal. Not a video, not a voice, just a set of coordinates. And one line. "This was your first fall. There will be others." Then the screens went black. The human disappeared. No one saw him leave. No escape pods were launched. No transporter logs. He was just gone. But his silence stayed behind. The Empire's leaders began to understand. Earth hadn't started a war. It had ended one. And the silence? That was the sound of mercy ending. For the first time in 1,000 years, the Empire's homeworld was silent. No music in the sky towers. No laughter in the crystal gardens. No speeches from the High Council. Only one thing filled the air now. Fear. It started with the stars. Ships that should have been shining bright in orbit simply vanished. Patrols were sent to check, but they never came back. Then the communication towers failed, one by one, like someone was cutting invisible wires. No enemy ships appeared. No explosions were heard. Just silence. And still, the Empire fell apart. Captain Vorak, now recalled to the Central Defense Station, stood before the Supreme Warlord. The Warlord's face was pale, his eyes wide. He had always believed Earth was weak, slow to fight, quick to beg. Now, he said nothing. He just pointed to the black screen in front of him. It showed nothing. Only darkness, no stars, no signal. "They're here," Vorak whispered. The Warlord turned to him. "What are they doing? Why not just destroy us?" Vorak answered without looking away from the screen. "Because they want us to feel it. What we made them feel. Fear, doubt, the sense that you're not alone, even when you are." A soft beep sounded. A message had arrived. One line. No voice. "Return. What was taken?" The Warlord frowned. "Taken? We didn't take anything from Earth." Vorak didn't answer. His mind raced. Something about that human. The silent one. There had to be a reason he allowed himself to be captured. It wasn't just a trick. It was part of something larger. Something that had already started before the war. He left the war room without permission. He needed answers. Hours later, he sat in the archives deep under the Capitol. He pulled up the last records of Earth's diplomatic missions before war was declared. One file stood out, flagged, locked, and marked Classified Level 10. Vorak forced it open. The file played a video. A small Earth ship arrived at the Empire's border station, unarmed. 3 humans on board, diplomats. One of them was a woman. She carried a silver case. The station commander refused them entry, then ordered the ship to be destroyed. The woman's last words before the ship exploded were, "We came to return what you left behind." Vorak stared at the frozen image of her face, the silent human from Cell 9B. He had her eyes. "They took his family," Vorak whispered. "That's what started it." He leaned back, sick to his stomach. It wasn't a war. It wasn't revenge. It was something worse. A message. Earth hadn't sent its best warrior. They had sent their most patient one. That night, across 20 Empire planets, the same thing happened at the same time. Every screen lit up. Every speaker turned on. No one touched. A button, and a single heartbeat played, slow, deep, human. Thump. Thump. Then the words appeared. "You took blood. We took time. Now, you'll take silence." The heartbeat stopped, and fear filled the space it left behind. On the outer edge of the galaxy, Empire forces tried to retreat. They sent ships to Earth with white flags and peace codes. None returned, not because Earth destroyed them, but because Earth didn't answer. The silence was worse than death because in that silence, they waited, and in that waiting, the Empire broke itself. Commanders fought among themselves. Planets turned on each other. Cities fell, not to bombs, but to fear, to confusion, to the idea that maybe, just maybe, Earth was already inside. One message was picked up days later by a rogue Empire ship drifting near a dead star. The pilot was alone, barely alive. His final report was short. "I saw him, on our ship, just standing there. He didn't move. He didn't speak. But I knew. I knew we were already finished." He died seconds later. His eyes were open, frozen, in terror. Back at the Empire capital, Vorak stood alone on the main balcony watching the stars vanish one by one. He whispered into the cold air, "What do we do now?" And in his mind he heard the answer. Not in words, not in sound, but in silence. The kind that meant it was too late to stop what had already begun. The Empire tried everything. They sent messages begging for peace. They sent ships with gifts, treasure, and old Earth relics. They even offered to surrender 10 planets. But Earth said nothing. No reply, no warning, just silence. The silence that had become a shadow that moved faster than light. Captain Vorak stood in the ruined control tower of the capital. Half the screens were dead, the rest showed static. Alarms no longer worked. Systems failed at random. And still, no enemy ship had entered orbit. Because Earth didn't need ships, Earth had already entered their minds. Reports kept arriving, one worse than the last. Entire bases shut down. Officers disappeared. Civilians walked into the forests and never came back. Whole cities went dark, and when scouts arrived to investigate, they found streets full of clothes. But no bodies, only footprints. And in every place written on walls, on glass, even on the ground. One symbol, the Earth signal, a single circle, broken by a sharp line. No one knew what it meant, but everyone feared it. Relak, now one of the last remaining commanders, stood beside Vorak. His eyes were red, his hands shook. "They're not killing us," he whispered. "They're erasing us." Vorak nodded slowly. "They want us to understand. They want us to feel what we made them feel." He closed his eyes. He remembered the first days of the war, the way Earth begged for peace, how the Empire laughed, how they said humans were too emotional, too weak to fight a real war. But now that emotion had become a weapon, one stronger than any fleet. The silent human had vanished long ago. Some believed he returned to Earth. Others believed he was never human at all, just a signal in a body, a warning with a heartbeat. But whatever he was, he broke the Empire without lifting a finger. And now, Earth had started to speak, not in words, but in actions. One by one, the outer colonies of the Empire began to fall inward, pulled into nothing, like they were being wiped clean. Black holes? Some said that. But Vorak knew better. This was Earth's justice, not quick, not loud, but complete. A final message arrived on the High Council's last working screen. It showed a map of the galaxy, Empire space glowing red, Earth space glowing blue, and then the red began to shrink, not from attack but from silence. Planets stopped talking, fleets stopped moving, people stopped breathing, and the blue slowly spread, taking back what was once ignored. No sound, no war cry, just peace, forced into every corner of the stars. Relak fell to his knees. "They're ghosts," he said. "Humans are ghosts." "No," Vorak replied. "They're still human." He pointed at the symbol burned into the floor. "They just stopped forgiving." He turned away from the window as the sky grew darker. A strange mist rolled across the surface of the planet, and the stars above faded, one by one. A low sound filled the air, not a weapon, not a scream, just a deep human breath, long and slow. And in that breath, the galaxy finally understood. This was not a war. This was the price. And Earth had waited long enough to collect it. Only 10 Empire systems remained, once proud planets with fleets, power, and pride. Now, quiet. No trade, no ships, no voices, only fear. On the last surviving Empire world, Captain Vorak sat alone. The city around him was empty. No guards, no civilians. Just the cold wind and the soft hum of a broken sky tower. Relak was gone. The High Council was gone. Even the Supreme Warlord had vanished. His last words caught by a half-working camera. "They are already here." And still, Earth had not sent an army. Not even one official demand. Just silence. Then one morning, every screen on the planet turned on. Not by command, not by power grid. They simply lit up, and a face appeared. It was him, the silent human. He had not aged. His eyes were calm, cold, but not angry. He didn't speak right away. He just looked at them. Across every empty ship, every forgotten bunker, every hidden station, his face appeared, and then he spoke. Slow, clear, in simple words. You thought we were weak, because we loved, because we cared, because we asked for peace. He leaned forward. You called our silence fear. He paused. It was warning. Captain Vorak listened from his seat in the ruined command center. His heart beat slowly. He didn't move. The human continued. You burned our cities. You took our people. You laughed when we begged. He looked straight into the camera now. We don't beg anymore. The screen turned black. Then a single image appeared. A silver case. The same one Earth's diplomats had tried to return before the war. Then a sentence. You didn't just start a war. You ended your right to exist. The image faded. Silence again. But this time, it was the last one. Because Earth moved. Not with guns. Not with fire, but with presence. From deep space came dark shapes. Massive, silent crafts. No weapons visible, no noise. They didn't attack. They simply entered orbit and waited. Every Empire city still standing received the same signal, a soft tone, like a heartbeat. Thump, thump, then nothing. And the people? They vanished. No screams, no struggle. Just gone. As if Earth was taking back space itself. Vorak stood outside as the sky turned pale gray. Above him, the Earth ship hovered like a moon, made of shadow. He looked up and spoke to no one. You never needed to fight, you just needed to remember who you are. And then the stars returned, bright, calm, still. The Earth ships left. No message, no sign. Only one thing remained, etched into every wall, every stone, every sky tower. Never again. And below that, smaller words. Mercy is not weakness. Mercy is choice. Centuries passed. The Empire became memory. The galaxy rebuilt itself, but slower, wiser. Children learned the story of the silent human, of the war without war, of Earth's long, dangerous silence, and whenever someone asked why did Earth do it, the answer was always the same. They didn't. They warned us. We didn't listen. And so, even in peace, every race in the galaxy remembered. When Earth goes silent, listen carefully, because that silence is the last mercy you'll ever get.